For the last 18 or so years, Kenya has been on a trial and error phase trying to work things out on universal health coverage. Well, what exactly is this concept and how does it work? Even as we hurtle towards the year 2030, where Kenya has set the target to ensure there is UHC for all the citizens in the Republic of Kenya. What have been the hits and the misses, and what lessons can we learn from the past and the mistakes that we have done and avoid them in the future, even as we embark on the rollout of UHC in Kenya? Today, one of the big news that we are watching out is the signing of UHC bill by President William Ruto at State House. Of course, we shall be live on that very critical point in the afternoon. So you better keep it right here. And of course, I have a team of experts in the studio who will be helping me understand this whole concept of UHC. Where are we in terms of the rollout? What is the role of the National Assembly? Of the national government, as well as the role of county government and private sector players. That is a conversation that is coming up here in the next 3 or so minutes. The other issue that we shall be discussing here is how to tap the North American markets. Let me give you some statistics. When you look at the North American markets, you're talking about a market that is more than $500 billion in terms of travel and tourism. It's the biggest in the world, it's the most lucrative. And when you look at the number of Americans, tourists who are coming over to Kenya, it's a drop in the ocean. And so what do we need to do to tap this critical market? What strategies have we put in place to ensure that Kenya becomes attractive to the American traveler? And mind you, the American traveler is the most lucrative in the world. And so if you get the American market, that is the North American market, Lord, oh Lord, you've got it all. So we shall be having that conversation right here. You know this is BizCheck, and you know that we are live from Broadcasting House. My name, as always, is O'Brien Kimani. I'll be taking you through these conversations for the next 2 hours. And we also have our reporters on the ground. We are keeping tabs of the conversations that are taking place at the Deputy President's office. He's meeting coffee stakeholders, and the conversation there is how to bring to fruition the reforms initiated in the coffee industry. We'll also be listening to what the Minister for Lands he's expected to address the nation on matters, the ongoing demolitions in Mavoko sub-county in Machakos County. Well, what will he tell the world? That is the conversation that we are keeping tabs here. My name is O'Brien Kimani. And let's now get straight to the point. The conversation this morning, we are starting off with UHC. And we just want to understand, what is this concept around UHC that Kenya keeps on talking about, and why the United Nations is very much involved and worried about the state or the status of healthcare in developing world. To help us in this conversation, we're joined by Dr. Abdallah Zirabo. He is a research scientist at the African Population and Health Research Center, APHRC. He's joining us this morning. Thank you very much indeed, Dr.
Thank you for having me.
Very good indeed. And just next to Dr. Abdallah, we have Edwin Kigode. He's a general manager for managed care at Minet, which is a local health insurance company. Thank you very much indeed, Kigode, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I want to start with you, Dr. Abdallah. When we talk about universal health coverage, what exactly are we talking about?
Yeah, in brief, it's really an undertaking where countries commit to ensure that their population, all their populations, receive a certain minimum of quality health care when and where they need those services, without encountering financial barriers at the point of receiving the services. It doesn't mean free services, but avoiding the situation where you are not able to get services because you don't have the money on you.
So you're talking about two aspects of this. You have accessibility and affordability on one end. At what point do you get as a nation to say we have succeeded on accessibility?
Yeah, there is something we call coverage, meaning that there are indicators, a number of indicators which we measure to say how many of the people who should be receiving this service have been able to access this service and used it. For example, if you're looking at skilled birth attendants, say how many women have given birth with the support of a trained healthcare worker. So accessibility is both in terms of the service, but also the enablers to get that access, because services are not free. Somebody is paying, whether it's government, whether it's out of pocket, whether it's a family, whether it's employer. There's some kind of process going behind to buy that service. Yeah.
And when we talk about services that are offered at the accessibility level, we know there are simple services and procedures, and there are technical procedures. For example, the technology today in the world of surgery is laparoscopy. It's completely different from the traditional knife process that we have always known. So does it mean that in terms of accessibility, I also have to get the most updated technology available in the world?
Yeah, I think from the health services perspective, we want always to give the best to our people, to our patients. But we also know that circumstances are not the same. You may not be demanding what somebody in New York is demanding. So the concept around UHC rides on the principles of primary health care. That the services are accessible, that they are affordable, they are acceptable, and they are effective. So UHC doesn't envisage that you're going to get the most recent technology intervention on the market, but what is affordable within our means, and that has been scientifically proven to be safe, to be effective. Because you might have two interventions, one an old intervention but it does a good job, and another one new technology but probably unaffordable. It will be quite foolhardy to insist that you want the most recent. If a knife is going to remove that appendix by opening your tummy, and your doctor has not been trained in laparoscopy, you should be good with a knife.
With a knife?
Yeah.
I'll be coming back to you, because what I'm getting from you is that universal health coverage is different from nations. Is it true?
I would say the best concept is that people should receive the services they need.
The services they need.
They need. And
not the services that are available.
Yeah, exactly. Because you might have services that are probably not what you need. And because you're just able to pay, you might be demanding for services that you shouldn't be demanding for. I lived in the UK for some years, and I can tell you how difficult it is, for example, to get a CT scan or MRI done on you.
A CT scan?
Yes, and yet it's a rich nation. But because of their conceptualization of their healthcare delivery, you don't just walk in there and say, "Doctor, can I have a CT scan?" There must be a thorough vetting of why you need this. And eventually that speaks the issue of affordability in the healthcare system. And I keep asking myself, the way we deliver services, the way we demand for services, is it affordable if you are looking at reaching even those who are not able to pay for services? So affordability is always an important point when you're looking at accessibility. Yeah.
Kigode, help us understand this. I mean, when you look at the last 15, 18 years, I mean, that Kenya has been trying to roll out UHC. Would you see that we have covered any grounds yet?
Thank you for that question. I think Kenya as a country has been walking this journey of UHC right from independence, I would say. And indeed, there's been great milestones made towards realizing universal health coverage. Since the promulgation of the 2010 Constitution, I think there's been deliberate efforts to enhance service provision. And one of the tenets of UHC being access to healthcare services when you need them, and also an underlying factor being that one should not experience financial hardship in the process of accessing health services. So indeed, I would say there's been great milestones. There's still some ground to cover, a lot of ground to cover. And I think the bills that are before, that have been in Parliament and which the President is going to assent to, are in an effort to solidify that position of provision of UHC.
When you say that there has been great milestones that have been covered, what milestones are these?
I think the most recent that we can refer to is the pilot program that was run by the government in an effort to understand the situation on the ground.
The one that was rolled out in 4 counties?
Yes, in the 4 counties, yes. That was an important milestone in terms of being able now to go on ground and deliver these services, abate the challenges that may have been there. I'm sure there have been great lessons learned through those efforts and those initiatives, and I would indicate that possibly is providing the knowledge base upon which the next round of UHC is going to be built.
But we do not know the progress or the failure of that pilot program that was rolled out in 2018 by the former President Uhuru Kenyatta. So how do you qualify that to be a milestone?
I think for you to be able to offer a service across the Republic, you need to run a pilot program which enables you to get to learn the different scenarios that prevail across the country. You're able to establish costs, you're able to establish the behavior patterns, you're able to establish the availability of services on ground, and therefore I would infer that pilot should have created a basis upon which UHC can be anchored. When you read articles and you read researches, yes, indeed, I would say it may not have achieved 100% of the expectation. But as we were just discussing with my friend here, is that no research is futile. Yes.
No research is futile. When you're still at it, I also want to hear from you. You see, when you look at Kenya, at the universal health policy that was launched in the year 2020, it talks about reducing the out-of-pocket expenditure on Kenyans from an average of 43 shillings, out of every 100 shillings, to about 20 shillings. But when you look at the situation now, where we are, because of inflation and other factors, this has actually gone up. You're talking about 50% as we speak now. Would we say that we are making any progress? I want to hear from you as a researcher.
From the available data, and especially from the global bodies like WHO, it's clear that there was progress before 2015. In terms of coverage, if you look at most of the indicators, they were going up in terms of coverage. Out-of-pocket was also reducing, but there is a clear indication that after 2015, coverage has stagnated, meaning that if you look at an indicator like, for example, service coverage indicator, compound indicator, it's around 52%.
52%?
52%.
So which means that for every 100 shillings that you earn...
No, that's for coverage.
Oh, now for coverage.
Yeah,
okay.
For catastrophic out-of-pocket expenditure, about, if I remember correctly, about 5.8% of the people in Kenya experience catastrophic expenditure out-of-pocket.
What is that?
That means if you are earning 100 shillings as your income, you spend more than at least 10% of that money on health. The recommendation is if you spend in a normal range, that expenditure shouldn't be beyond 10%.
It should not be beyond 10%.
Yeah, a lot of people are spending more than that.
This is the global standard, or is just a standard for Kenya?
Yeah, this is a global standard that applies to us because the contexts are different, but what is inbuilt in that matrix relates to Kenya in all ways. And we subscribe to that as the indicator for tracking our progress. And I wanted to say something at the beginning, that at times we look at UHC as a destination, but I think sometimes it's better to look at it as a journey.
As a journey.
As a process, because
but every journey must have a destination.
Well, yes, that's true.
Because you can't journey forever.
Eventually people at times get disillusioned. Why are we not getting there? Because even rich economies are still struggling to get to the 100% coverage. There will be people who will fall through the cracks a bit. So it has to be known that this is a journey. And when you look at the principle of continuous improvement, we need to continually improve in the coverage. We need to continually improve in protecting our people from catastrophic expenditure out of pocket. And out of pocket is not just for the poor. If you and me, I'm sure you're not poor,
well, I don't know that.
have to pay from their pocket when they fall sick. It's quite a high risk undertaking, because you might fall sick on this day when you don't have any liquidity on you. So the recommendation is we should be protected to a level, to the extent that we should not be denied services just because we don't have the money at the point of receiving care.
That's very true. And we are lucky enough to have an underwriter in the house to help us understand. Why is it that, insurance services or medical insurance remains beyond the reach of more than 95% of Kenyans?
That statistic is scary to the populace.
But is it true?
Yes. A good number of the insured population are the persons who are in formal employment. Mostly, you'd find persons in formal employment.
And they are the minority in Kenya?
Yes, and they're the minority in Kenya. And so a larger population is out of pocket, and in the recent past, some of them have been able to subscribe to the National Hospital Insurance Fund, which is now undergoing transformation. So the reason why you find fewer of the population being able to afford healthcare services is that healthcare premium rates have been on an all-time high. However, we are seeing a lot of innovation coming in, whereby we are embracing different health financing models, one of which is becoming quite popular is a capitation model, which is allowing the cost of care to be managed at a lower level with proper negotiation with the end service providers, which is the medical service providers, and in so doing, making it reasonable to afford healthcare services. So I can say the preserve has been mostly for the employed population and high net worth individuals, but there's also been innovation in the space of microinsurance, where we can see that many other players are coming in to provide solutions for farmers, for organized groups, where they can pool together their resources and be able to secure a form of health insurance. So the space
what are the numbers now talking about? I know, according to statistics from the Insurance Regulatory Authority, they have always said that insurance coverage in Kenya, is below 4%. For the longest time, it is stagnated at about 2.5%. There has been a slight improvement, but you can't say that is progress when more than 95% of your population, are not covered by any form of insurance. So what does innovation has to do with these? And then what do we need to do to reduce the cost of premiums in Kenya?
Okay. The statistic that you've cited by the Insurance Regulatory Authority, that the insurance penetration is below 4%, yes, it is a true statistic, but that statistic is against the gross domestic product, against the GDP. So it is looking at the value of insurance against all other...
it's not based on abstract population?
No, it's not based on abstract population. But when you look at some of the statistics that you've alluded to, about over 80% of the medical insured population is under the National Hospital Insurance Fund. And the other 20% is within the private sector, private medical insurance. And so for us in the sector to be able to increase the accessibility to medical insurance services, we have embraced models that would cut the cost of care to a minimum, and therefore extend this benefit to members by way of providing affordable solutions. So one of which I have highlighted before is capitation, whereby we are able to negotiate with medical service providers to give rock bottom rates, bearing in mind the economies of scale by the sheer volume that we're able to place with them, and that benefit is then extended to members where then they can be able to afford insurance. Yeah.
Very well. I mean, if you're just joining us, we're having this conversation around the universal health coverage in Kenya, the milestones covered, the hits and the misses, and what we just need to do to ensure that we get it right. And the target is to have universal health care in Kenya by the year 2030. Today, President William Ruto is expected to assent to 3 critical bills and that are expected to drive the achievement of this. And and the 3 bills are the Primary Health Care Bill, the Facility Improvement Financing Bill, the Digital Health Bill, and the Social Health Insurance Bill. All these bills are expected to drive and to deepen the universal health coverage here in Kenya. They have a lot of excuse me. They have a lot of goodies, but we are discussing them here and asking ourselves, how do we improve on this? And we're in the company of 2 experts. We have Dr. Abdallah Ziraba. He's a research scientist at the African Population and Health Research Center, as well as Edwin Kigode, who's a general manager for managed care at Minet Insurance. Thank you very much. Let's go and have this conversation going on. Dr. can you help us understand, first of all, these 4 bills that are before the president? How critical are they in the implementation and rollout of UHC in Kenya?
Yeah, thank you. I think it's good to state up front that healthcare is expensive.
It's expensive?
Yeah, it's expensive.
Is it expensive by design or by default?
By default. Whether you're looking at the big economies, healthcare is expensive. A lot of Americans are not covered, and that's a fact. So these bills are supposed to be pushing the pilots that we saw being undertaken in the 4 counties to maturity in terms of the scope, but also in terms of involving all the other counties in the rolling out of UHC. So for me, in summary, I would say these bills are enabler. They're kind of contributing to what needs to be done. I mentioned that healthcare is expensive, and one thing that we need to do is to diversify the sources of funding. You might be familiar with the Abuja Declaration that mandated or required countries to spend 15% of their GDP on healthcare.
Is it of their GDP or budget?
Of their budget, yes.
Annual budget,
of their budget. And up to date, hardly do we have, probably 1 or 2 countries have gone beyond 10%. So that's really a big challenge.
And Kenya is not one of the 2.
No, it's not one. Yeah. I'm very sure about that. So if you look at a bill like the social insurance one, it's really looking at how do we get more Kenyans into insurance. I was chatting with him earlier that a lot of people who can afford insurance are not insured because of the very design of insurance. If you're not in an organized kind of employment, you're sort of considered to be high risk, and you might be having the means to pay. But because you're not in an organized group, insurance is about pools. They want to work with pools. That's how they mitigate the risks and make a profit. So if we go the route that the bills are proposing, where a lot of people are going to be signed on, I think we'll have a chance of having a bigger pool of financial resources, which can then be used to purchase services, because it's all about resources. But the other important thing about the future is the issue of governance. You might have the resources, human, financial, infrastructure, But if you don't have good governance, then you have a problem, because resources might be misused. Officers who are in charge may not be accountable because they know there are no consequences if they don't perform.
Yeah.
And I'm yet to read these bills, but I think the intention is really to draw the lessons and take these forward in terms of ensuring that Kenya can have bigger steps towards achieving UHC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I like the fact that you're bringing in the issue of governance, because it is true you may have the best technology in the world, you may have the best hospitals in terms of infrastructure, right. But if governance is not right, then you're likely to end up, right. Not getting it right. And this is why I want to hear from Kigode. I mean, in 2012, Kenya introduced a two-tier government system where we have the national government and we have the county government, 47 in numbers. And at this point, we devolved the health services, and now health services, became the concern of the county government, and the national government was left with formulation of policies and budget. Was this a good move, really, when you listen to all the challenges that the health sector is facing at the county level?
You pulled me into the politics of the day.
Well, I don't want you to touch on the politics of the day. I just want to, just want you to look at it, as it is, and then yes, make your suggestions based on that.
Yes, indeed, Kenya has gone through transformation in the governance, and where we have the central government and the county government. I think in the wisdom of the drafters of the Constitution and the implementers of the Constitution was that health services are best offered closest to where people reside and where people live. And since devolution was one of those means of getting services to members of the public, then health services were devolved under that framework. And so I think in the wisdom of the drafters, as I said, and the experts, that would be the best way to roll it out. However, these challenges that you've cited that possibly bedeviling the health sector, I am sure that the government or the persons who are in position would be best placed to be able to address whether it is the best model or not. However, just looking at the bills that you've talked about, one of the key bills is the facilities improvement financing bill. Mm-hmm. And this is geared towards ensuring that health facilities are able to retain the revenue that they collect for the various services that they're offering. And I think from where we come from in the insurance sector, public facilities have not been roped in their large numbers into health insurance framework. And I think it was mainly because these revenues would be collected and sent to the central kitty. Yeah. And then they would be able to make requisitions for any purchases that would like to have, any procurement. So by ensuring that these funds can be kept at the health facility would hasten being able to procure emergency services or emergency goods that would be necessary for provision of health services. So I think just looking at the 4 bills that you mentioned, that is one of the bills where insurance would be able now to properly work within the government facilities, which I would say as Minet we've been able to endeavor to onboard or contract quite a number of government facilities to enable us to provide health insurance services. And that is part of the reason why I said we are now in a position to provide affordable insurance services to members because of incorporating government facilities. So I think for the larger insurance sector, this is a great move because hospitals will have the impetus to be able to sign up insurance programs because they know that the remuneration or the reimbursements that will get through insurance would come in to assist improve the health facilities.
When you look at, for example, the allocation to the health sector, at the county and vis-a-vis the national government level, You're looking at about 6.8%, at the national government, and about 4.5% at the county levels. And so you see this level of mismatch. And all of us, are moving to the same direction. But this mismatch, do you see it affecting the achievement of UHC, Dr. Ari?
Yeah, in my opinion, devolution or decentralization in other countries, as they call it, I think is good for service delivery because then the planning and the knowledge of what is a priority is best known at the source. So devolution is good, I think, for service delivery. But there are areas where we may need to think a bit more critically of what roles needs to be at the county and what roles need to be at the central government, that's the Ministry of Health. And one of the things I think that has really challenged the counties is the human resource. Human resource for health is also not cheap. If you need adequate numbers of well-trained workers, you need to pay them. And given the allocation that you've just talked about, I think they have struggled to attract and retain adequate numbers of service providers. So maybe we should be entertaining a conversation of what other functions need to be considered or to be supported by the central government, especially when the central government is retaining a bit of a substantial amount of money allocated to health. So in sum, devolution is good, but the allocation of resources and the division of responsibilities and who gets what, I think that's where they say the devil is in the details. So that's where really we need to be focusing on.
So how do we unravel that mystery and deal with that kerfuffle?
I think devolution is still being, in some way I can say, it's being still understood in Kenya in terms of how it should be operationalized in the different sectors. So my point would be to continue having the conversation around what would be the best way of facilitating the implementation and the provision of services at the county level. At the highest level in the government, we had, and actually the political discussions, we had conversations around how much money is going to the counties. Of course, that includes health service provision. So maybe if the sitting government, parliament and the Senate, if they can entertain some kind of more discussions around what more needs to go to the counties and which sectors does it need to go to, maybe that might be a contribution towards the right direction. Yeah.
And when you look at it, what recommendation would you make?
In terms of the general improvement of UHC? I think if you were to make resources available in terms of pooling, there is no way of avoiding insurance, whether you're looking at the private insurances, whether you're looking at social insurance. I think we need to be able to pool resources. When you pool resources, you spread out the risk, right? You spread out the risk to the extent that a few of the people who are insured who get the condition are able to get the services they need, and the insurance also remains with some profit margin to be able to keep in business. So we need to pool resources. And two, when those resources are pooled, we need to be able to purchase resources in a transparent way. And Kenya is making big strides in terms of digitalizing some of the processes, because when you make things digital, they are traceable, meaning that you reduce fraud, you encourage openness, even among providers, whether service providers or insurance providers. And then the other thing we need to do is to improve the quality of services. Because if an individual has subscribed, has paid a premium for insurance, they need to go to a national hospital or a regional government hospital and they get the services that they ought to be receiving in terms of quality, in terms of the way patients are treated, so that they feel that they are getting value for money. Because I think that has been part of the problem, especially with government facilities where people who are willing to pay and able to pay are reluctant to go to those facilities. I don't know when you were last in a government hospital.
Let's ask him. but before we even ask him, before he responds to that question, look, And I like the fact that you have lived in the UK, and so you are at a position whereby now you can do a proper analysis, between the health cost in the UK vis-a-vis here in Kenya and the services offered. And I want to ask you this. You talked about PET scan. It's a complicated technology. Right. It's a bit expensive here in Kenya. I don't know whether you have the numbers. How much will it cost to do a PT scan here in Kenya vis-a-vis in the UK?
I don't have the figures on top of my head, but definitely it's much more expensive to do anything in the UK. It's much more expensive, yes.
But how comes a lot of patients, they end up being sent to the UK?
Because those ones who are sent are able to pay. Somebody from your village has been sent to the UK to do a PET scan. You can't afford.
It's expensive.
Yeah, those who go are able to afford.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you are saying, you're talking about, health services being expensive. And you say this is by default.
Right.
That's what you said.
Right.
Is there anything that can be done to lower the cost of health services?
Yeah, I talked about the issue of pooling resources. Insurance, if we think and agree that insurance is the best way to buy services, what they need is a pool resource sort of pot where many people are subscribing. Insurance works with numbers. The more people subscribe, the more they can offset their costs, and they are hedging on the fact that the events will not happen. So if they recruit 1,000 instead of 1 million, they are not really operating optimally. That's one. We need to increase that pool.
But you also recognize that, would you say that, the Kenyan insurance market is overly saturated? There's too many players, chasing a very small market.
Yeah, the truth of the matter is, where there is competition, Kenya is a free market economy. Mm-hmm. Where there is competition, those who are not fit should die and leave those that are able to survive to continue providing the services. That's a natural selection thing.
It's a highly capitalistic sentiment.
Yeah, yeah.
I want you to comment on what he's saying. That there is beauty, when you pull your resources together, when you come together, and when you do what we call consolidation. And when you look at the Kenyan market, I don't have the latest numbers, but we have more than 30 insurance companies, right?
Yes.
Serving a population of about 60 million people, where insurance penetration is less than 3% of Kenya's GDP. Is it high time then we started talking about mergers, acquisitions, consolidations, and buyout?
Indeed, just to maybe, as you said, respond to one of the sentiments he made, is that currently PET scan, as a question that you had put forward, is available locally, and I think the average rates are about 60 to 70,000. We have two major hospitals in Nairobi who are offering that. I'm yet to hear of any other: the Aga Khan University Hospital and the Kenyatta University and Teaching and Referral Hospital, where PET scans are now available. So the need for...
Aga Khan is a private hospital. Kenyatta is a public referral hospital.
Public referral hospital. So that gives you...
And the charges are the same?
Relatively,
are the two institutions?
Relatively within that range that I provided, 60 to 70. But the more important thing is to say that Kenya is making progress towards bringing some of these technologies locally. And that is an advantage to our members, because from the insurance sector, we've had quite a number of people being sent out of the country to seek diagnostic services like the PET scans. Now that they're available locally, that helps us to retain our money locally, and also increase the capability of many more other providers in bringing that technology locally. So going to the issue of the penetration of insurance versus, I think the question was penetration versus what do we need to do really to make insurance continuously available to members, despite the large number of insurance companies we have. I think innovation is the way to go. And innovation, what I would say, is embracing technology. The reason why we've continued having the administrative costs of insurance on the high is because many companies have been, using traditional models of operation. So embracing modern technology to cut down the administrative costs, which you can push back as a benefit to reducing the premium that are payable by members. That will be a good step towards making it affordable. Having the large number of insurance companies is not a problem. It actually avails choice for our members. Members of the public have choice where you can be able to assess your affordability of insurance services versus your budgets. But the subject of mergers and acquisition is a live subject. We've seen quite a number of insurance companies coming together to consolidate their books and be able to offer the services. And this is one way to increase capacity to underwrite larger volumes of insurance. Another model that is embraced in the current scenario is what you call a cooperation of insurance companies. I would say Minet is at the forefront of consortium leadership. And we see that in the various solutions that we provide to our members, we have brought together 3, 4, or 5 insurances to be able to consolidate their capabilities and their capacity to offer services to many large population. So having large number of insurance companies is not a problem. It's just finding mechanisms where we can work together to offer these services to the population. So consortium frameworks are the better way to be able to defray some of these costs and reduce our administrative costs and pass on that benefit to members.
Dr. in the interest of time, because I can see that we should be coming to a close in the next in the next 90 seconds from now. What advice would you have to policymakers and policy implementers for us to get it right in the rollout of UHC in a seamless manner? And are there examples of countries that have managed to roll out UHC and that we can emulate? I know Cuba has always given us a very good example. Then do we need to go the Cuban way?
Yeah, you asked me about what we need to do, and I talked about insurance and the issue of buying services. But it's not just about the cost. It's also the modus operandi of how we deliver the services. You talked about the innovations. How do we innovate, cooperate to reduce costs, to detect and reduce fraud between claims, and the point I want to end with is the issue of going back to the ethos of primary health care. In most of the African countries, I think we're spending a lot of money on curative services. Whereas
on curative
services, we need to be preventing diseases before they happen. We need to be promoting health. We need to be treating those that need to be treated using the appropriate technology and interventions. We need to be rehabilitating people who need the rehabilitation. So if we go back to
preventive,
promotive,
measures.
Preventive, and then you can now talk about treatment.
Very good.
And I think we've not been doing well on that front.
Very good.
A lot of focus and investment in treatment rather than prevention.
So the whole point is we need to stop diseases before they happen,
Exactly.
instead of employing curative measures. Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Thank you, Kikode, for finding time to be with us, and of course for sharing with us that insight. Well, you're watching the BizCheck live from Broadcasting House. I told you that the first hour we were discussing the UHC. The second hour we're looking at the tourism market with a keen focus on the American market. I told you it is one of the most lucrative markets in the world. We just want to see how do we tap into this market and ensure that we have more American visitors coming to the Kenyan market. This conversation is coming up in the next 5 minutes or so. So you all better stick right here. My name is O'Brien Kimani. You're watching the Score BizCheck. We are live from Broadcasting House. Stay right here.
My name is Mary Modoni. I am the Principal Secretary for Public Health and Professional Standards. The government is committed to deliver universal health coverage through primary health care network, with a focus on preventive and promotive health. To achieve this, several systems have been put in place. We have conducted assessment of over 14,000 health facilities to establish the level of service in terms of human resources for health, equipment in our hospitals, and technology. In addition, we are finalizing the process of establishing 315 primary care networks in all the 47 counties to support the referral system through the 100,000 trained and equipped community health promoters. These community health promoters will be key in health promotion and facilitating early detection of diseases at household levels in the spirit of the Afya Bora Mashinani goal. The government has established systems to prevent spread of diseases, and we have an elaborate surveillance system to mitigate cross-border spread of diseases. We are also deploying vaccines as a preventive measure to immunizable diseases. We will continue to educate and inform Kenyans so that they are empowered to live a healthy lifestyle. I now ask Kenyans to practice high levels of hygiene in their environment. Remember to wash your hands, drink clean and safe water, and proper waste disposal. We endeavor to ensure available, affordable, acceptable and accessible quality health care. For a healthy nation, let us adopt a balanced diet, and our health is our responsibility. Afya yako, jukumu lako. Afya nyumbani.
KBC Channel 1 magazine programs strive to disseminate news and information.
Welcome to Happening in the World of Entertainment
and achievements of individuals navigating through life.
Be part of the intelligent conversation. Upper KBC Channel 1.
Related to the interest of Kenyan public on various subjects of national importance.
Basi karibu tujifunze.
Keeping you up to date with the latest tech news,
challenges and remarkable stories of individuals with disabilities.
And you have a say.
Our magazine programs empower communities with words for conversations and a common language to approach the world.
For your infotainment needs, we have a great range of programs.
I think there is a misunderstanding here. Mimi, as far as I'm concerned, nimekuwa nikilipa every month end. Sorry?
Mimi ni wakili wa Sara. Sara ni client wangu.
Kwani wewe dada una nini, mbona una wasiwasi hivyo?
Hivi, wanulize hivyo kama nani? Ama utanisaidia na nini wewe?
Zuri. Una bahati sana. Next time utakuja kuozea hapa jela.
Music can be magical. It's the soul for life and gives immense peace to us. It has a powerful therapeutic effect on the human psyche. Whether secular or gospel, there's a song for everyone, every occasion, and every emotion.
God bless you.
I started going for lunch at home, and the lunch break was only 1 hour. So meaning if I do 2 miles to school and 2 miles to go back for hot lunch and 2 miles to go back to school and 2 miles to get back at home, now you can tell the average.
The kind of, yes, the distance that you're doing. Yeah.
So that tells you I developed some mileage without knowing. And I didn't mind. Even the nickname, I was being called Chrissy Catherine. And I was okay with it. Because at the back of my mind...
I would like to wonder what the people who coined the name Crazy Catherine are thinking right now.
The advice that I would give a young athlete, female athlete, is that she should not let her background define her. Me, I believe if it is a human being who is doing whatever they are doing, I can still do it.
Yes.
Why not?
Yeah.
These are the moments we live for every Friday as we catch up with the world of football.
Manchester City go in front.
With your favorite stars in rivalries like no other that keeps you on the edge of your seat. Learn a few tricks that keep you ahead of the game and spice it all with unforgettable moments on Dunda Dunda. On Saturday, you're in for another treat as we rock your weekend with all sporting disciplines, bringing you insights on what's happening behind the scenes as we share players and athlete stories, preparations, and celebrate their achievements.
Charging to the line! Is it going to be a world record? Yes, it is! She smashed it!
Whatever angle you look at, we've got you covered. KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
But a good time now to focus, to shift our focus after spending the last 1 hour or so, having a conversation around universal health coverage. And we told you President William Ruto is expected to assent to 4 critical bills that will help in the growth of UHC here in Kenya. We're keeping an eye on that. It's happening in the afternoon, and we shall be giving you more details about this. For now, remember tomorrow is Mashujaa Day, and the theme is around universal health care in Kenya. It's happening in the county of Kericho. Our reporter, Giverson Minor, is on the location. He's about to join us now to give us a blow-by-blow account on the preparations taking place in Kericho. Let's see whether we can bring him up on the screen. Giverson, where are you at? Give us one minor. Can you hear me? I know you're in Kericho County. There he's coming here. I think he should be coming on the screen. Let's see whether we can get him up. Give us on. There he is on the background here. Give us on. Well, I don't know whether you can hear because there's so much noise up there. Can you hear me?
Live from Kericho Green Stadium in the middle of Kericho County and of course Kericho Town, where the rehearsals are being conducted in readiness for Mashujaa Day 2023, which will be held right here where I am standing. And you can see the pictures, behind me, and the voices. Those are rehearsals of various performers who are expected to be ready by tomorrow. And this picture that you see right there of those young men and women having various, they're having backpacks which are red in color, and they are carrying some flags. These are what we called health community, or rather community health promoters. I know the theme of this year, Mashujaa Day, is universal health care. So this is in line with the government's agenda in regards to universal health promotion across the country. And remember vividly when President William Ruto was saying that the government is going to actually employ so many of them, actually I think 1 in every ward across the country, to do what is called health promotion, and this is in regards to prevention of diseases rather than the cure. And so I've spoken just to a few of them. They're saying this is going to be a very huge thing, and the ones that you're saying are of course drawn from various sub-counties within the Kericho County. And early in the morning, early in the morning, there was a press briefing by the regional commissioner of Rift Valley, Dr. Abdi Hassan, who told us that the government has so far employed over 28,000 community health promoters in Rift Valley alone in preparation to launch this particular program across the country. And of course, remember, this day, Mashujaa Day, is meant to, of course, celebrate and to observe and appreciate those who contributed immensely to the struggle of Kenya's independence, and even those who have contributed to the Kenya post, independence, in various matters across from culture, going to development of the country, from the national government, and of course, even from the county governments, and going to the villages and to the remotest parts of the area. And just to give you a heads up of what is about to happen tomorrow is that the regional commissioner said, of course, today starting from 5 p.m., there's going to be what we call traffic diversions. And so by about 5 p.m., no motor car or vehicle is going to be allowed into Kericho County or into Kericho, town without having, accreditation, or rather they must show that they've been accredited to come into this particular event for tomorrow. And so all the public service vehicles, including the private vehicles, will not be allowed into this particular town after 5 p.m. in the evening, and they'll be diverted to other roads. And of course, security has been beefed up across town, even the surroundings, with the RC saying that, policemen and women have taken cover of various locations, including one that is located at Sondu, the border of Kericho, and Kisumu, where we have witnessed, a number of, chaotic scenes, men from the one county and the other county trying to, confront each other. He says that has been addressed, and nothing like that will be witnessed tomorrow. It will be going to be very peaceful. And of course, this particular place, or rather stadium, will be opened by tomorrow very early in the morning, actually by 3 a.m. That is when this particular stadium will be opened for members of the public. Of course, 10,000 guests expected to be sitting here. Of course, by 7 a.m., no one else will be allowed to be actually seated in this particular place. Even members of, a media fraternity, all of us are expected to be seated here at about 6 a.m. in the morning. And let me just show you pictures of how this particular ground looks like. This is Kericho Green, is a new one. It's a new stadium, and actually it's been constructed or refurbished by the national government. And so we are expecting Cabinet Secretary for Sports and Youth Affairs, Babu Namamba, to hand over this particular grounds to the county. Actually, they are late. They're supposed to hand over the grounds to by about 11 a.m. in the morning, and so we are still waiting. And of course, this particular day is the event that will be handled by the military, or rather the Kenya Defence Forces, who have performed or rather conducted their simulation or rehearsals, if you like. They did that early in the morning, and so they've gone about their other activities. And just unfortunately, because of the weather conditions in this particular county, it keeps raining after every 5 minutes, or even after every 10 minutes or 1 hour. It's a raining county. Of course, they are blessed, and of course, you remember it's a tea growing county, and so it's very cold. The clouds are all over, and so tomorrow we are not going to have, or rather to witness, air performance by the military, or what we call flags, various aeroplanes and choppers, and all those air performance by the military is not going to be there. And so that was the announcement by the handlers, or rather the organizers of this particular event. And so this is what is just going to happen. And so we are expecting the area governor to come and address us, but we are still waiting for him. O'Brien, if you still can hear me in the studio, I want just to hand you over to the studio so that we can start preparing a piece for you subsequent bulletin. Back to in studio. O'Brien, take it over.
That's Giverson Minor, our reporter, coming to us live from Kericho Green Stadium, where the celebrations to mark Mashujaa Day are underway, and as you can see, the preparations are ongoing. The weather there doesn't look absolutely beautiful. This is not what you call the Kenyan golden weather. It's a bit gloomy there. We're hoping that tomorrow the sun will be out with its cousins. Remember, we'll be live from Kericho. Tomorrow the theme is around universal health care, and of course the chief guest is President William Ruto. KBC has lined up an extensive coverage of that event in Kericho. And that's the conversation that we're having in the first hour of this check. We're about to get on to the second hour. I've been talking about the North American tourism markets. Allow me to address you statistically speaking. You're talking about the biggest tourism and travel market in the world, which is estimated to be about $1.3 trillion in the year 2022. Its closest rival is China, which comes second with $814 billion a year. That's what we're talking about. And when you look at the number of American tourists who came over to Kenya in the year 2022, you're looking at about 200,000 American visitors. And by the way, you have a population of about 350 million American visitors. That is, you have barely scratched the surface. Can you imagine having a situation whereby you have about, let's even say 1% of American visitors, coming to Kenya or making Kenya their destination? This is of course achievable. This is workable. It just requires proper strategies and proper marketing campaign in place. The Kenya Tourism Board is working towards achieving this. The Kenyan government has its eyes on the North American market just to get the American tourist. In the studio, I told you we have a team that will be helping us to navigate through this conversation. We have Kia Wakesho Simmons. She is the CEO and founder of Traverse Culture, which is a tourism and travel company whose main focus is to bring African Americans to Africa with a keen eye on Kenya. She's here with us. Thank you very much, Ms. Simmons, for your time.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Why the focus on the African American?
Well, first, I'm African American, so it just makes sense. The reason why I came to Kenya was to be able to find some sense of home. And so this is very important. And for most African Americans, we're trying to find that sense of home outside of being American. I'm not taking away from my ancestors and what we've contributed to America, but we're also a part of Africa. So that's why I'm focused on African Americans.
Very well. You'll be giving us more insight into that.
Absolutely.
And also joining us on the set is Kevin Onyona. He's one of the most successful Kenyan restaurateurs based in the US. He is the CEO and founder of Swahili Village, a fine dining restaurant based in the state of Maryland, the Washington, D.C., New Jersey, and soon he's opening up Atlanta in Georgia. And he has plans to open about 50 branches in the next 10 years. That's a Herculean task if you ask me, but it's up to the challenge. He knows the American food market like the back of his palm. And he's joining us here. His name is Kevin Onyona. He's a Kenyan. He's one of us. And he's conquering the American food market. Thank you very much indeed, Kevin Onyona, for your time.
Thank you, O'Brien. Thank you for having me.
We're glad to have you this morning. You have been in the U.S. since 1999, and you ran one of the most successful African-based restaurants in the U.S. in the name of Swahili Village. And your specialty is Kenyan delicacies. Why is this the case?
Well, because, first of all, there is some magic in Kenya. Our food is fresh. Our food is, organic for the most part. We actually eat very well. If you present what we serve on our table every day and that which most Americans eat on a daily basis, you just see the difference right there. But more importantly, food is diplomacy. A lot of countries get into America and into the American community using food as their diplomatic item to present to the community of the Americas. I know our president calls it gastronomy tourism, and it fits just perfectly with what we do. If you know well, Americans and museums will tell you, they eat out a lot, and there's always that conversation on the kitchen table. What are we eating next tomorrow? Where are we going out again next tomorrow? Or what are we ordering in tomorrow? And on that list, you'll find Asians, you'll find Japanese, you'll find Mexican, you'll find Ethiopian made it there. You'll find all manner of communities and countries listed for which they feel is something they can consume. Kenya did not make it until we introduced Swahili Village. And the idea is to make sure that that list has Kenyan cuisine, true taste of Kenya. And that's our motto. And you have to be very intentional about this, because if you open a restaurant for just Kenyans in America, chances are you will not do very well, because you don't have that population that will give you what you need, especially in a restaurant like ours. So we only serve about 10% of the population of the Kenyan people.
10%?
Yeah, the other 90% is everybody else, and most of it is actually Africans from West Africa.
And the 10% is good for your business?
And the 10% is good because we only constitute 10% of the African population in whatever areas we are at. Now,
as Kenyans?
Yes, Kenyans. Atlanta, that may be different. Atlanta will probably scratch on 15% or maybe 20%. But generally, the numbers of the West African market is always larger in any state you go to. So the pressure has always been, why are you selling True Taste of Kenya? And we are the patrons who come here. Why did you sell True Taste of Africa?
Yeah.
And that pressure has been there for a long time. And I say, no, you can find West African food in many, many places.
Yeah.
What should bring you here is to be able to commune with Kenyans and find what Kenyans eat, how they dine. This is the experience we're trying to give us. And who said Kenya is not in Africa? So, yeah, so that was something we had to very intentionally put there and stubbornly engage our customers until finally when they saw, President Kenyatta in my first restaurant in DC, then they see, President Ruto coming to support in Newark. They finally, knew that this was very intentional. It's about our country. It's about being patriotic.
Yeah.
It's about exposing us to the wider community where we live.
I'll be coming back to you because I would want to find out. I know you are awarded a certificate of recognition by the president when he was opening up the hotel in New Jersey just last month. I will be coming back to you to find out what exactly does this mean for you, and how do you plan to use this new platform to drive what we are calling now the culinary and gastronomy tourism. Sorry, but I just want to hear from Ms. Simmons. I mean, earlier on I was having this conversation with you, and you were telling me that you've traveled to about 45 countries in the world?
Correct.
And you've only managed to travel to about 12 states in the U.S.?
Yes.
That's very interesting. Let me ask you this. Of all the countries that you have traveled,
yes,
why have you why Kenya for you?
Right. That's always been a question people ask me all the time. And in the beginning, I couldn't quite put my finger on it. Like, why Kenya? Why Kenya? It's the people. It is truly the people. Kenyans are the most nicest people I've ever met in my life. And out of, like you said, the 45 countries that I've visited to, I never feel quite at home as I feel like when I'm here in Kenya.
It's the people.
It's the people.
It's not even the weather.
Well, the weather is good too. In Nairobi, I can't say too much about Mombasa. It's too hot. But yeah, it's the people. It's the people.
And the wildlife?
I don't come to see the wildlife, but it's okay. It's cool, yes. I come to see the people. Yes.
So let me ask you this. I mean, when you talk to the African American markets,
yes,
why would they want to? Why do they want to come to Kenya? What do they tell you?
Right. So it's interesting that you asked that, because to his point, most African Americans are going to West Africa. Shout out to West Africa, by the way. But I felt like, we have 54 countries in Africa. We should spread our wings a little bit and go beyond West Africa. And what's so interesting about Kenya in concern to African Americans, it doesn't just tie with slavery. It's returning back to the cradle of life. And so when I speak to most African Americans about Kenya, some of them don't really know too much about Kenya. So I am the first person that's probably introducing Kenya to them for East Africa.
So you act like the bridge between Kenya and the African American market.
Absolutely.
Well, I'll be coming back to you.
Yes.
But for now, we just want to go back to Kericho County, the home for these years, Mashujadi. The PS for Sports is currently on the podium. Let's go there and listen in, and then we'll come back with more conversation.
But we want to thank God in the sense.
Did you get the water?
Contractors for this job. We got people, Waziri, who are able to then execute through a technical methodology that I think the works officer should have been able to give us. Prefabs. The thing that gave us this stadium within the 2.5 months that we had earmarked ourselves to give this stadium to accomplish the works is because the contractor decided to go the prefab way. And then number two, because of the management of the team that was then overseeing the works, I can promise you here, Waziri, that we got the right quality of works. To the extent that when we were here last week, just looking at the VVIP and everything else, you can compare it with any national stadium of this level. So for me, let me take this opportunity to thank the committee, the celebrations committee, for their engagement in ensuring that we achieved that we needed. Let me also thank the contractor for having dedicated himself, and also thank you, Waziri, for ensuring that funds for this purpose were provided. And then, of course, I must thank the government, the county government of Kericho, for having been with us all through and making sure that whenever we required anything in terms of approvals or whatever, they were there for us. And then lastly, of course, Sports Kenya, through the chairman and the DG who are seated here, for having been able to ensure that the operations, the management, and the quality of service that was being put by the contractor was up to date. So for me, it's not by day to day. It's you, our leader, who is receiving this stadium that is supposed to be speaking. But before you speak, Waziri, let's also look at the ministry in terms of the achievements that we've had within the period you've been there, which is hardly 1 year. And also reflect on the achievements of the same ministry within a period of 5 years or so in the previous dispensation of government. I think everybody seated here can bear me witness that the achievements that we've been able to have as a ministry are enormous, courtesy of your leadership. Even the planning itself of this stadium, it took yourself walking here several times to ensure that all of us understood the direction that we had mapped out. All of us understood our individual responsibilities. And that is why we are proud today to say we've come to the conclusion of this project. So allow me just on behalf of everybody else that is here to thank you once more and encourage you that there is a saying among the Westerners that says a tree that does not bear fruit has the best leaves, because nobody bothers with it. But that one that has fruits, everybody will be throwing either a stone, a stick, because there is something that tree bears. So then, with that, I just want to encourage you that we must continue doing what we must do. And therefore, your leadership has been proved to be the right leadership for the ministry. If there was anything that you needed to change, don't change your leadership style, because it is a style that has brought us this far. With those very many remarks, thank you so much. And I would now wish to... Sorry.
Because I'm still managing the two of you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Waziri.
But just one statement, which is very important for the ministry. What I wanted to reiterate, you see, it's also good to appreciate what is good. And this is one ministry which is not saddled with corruption. I looked at the amount of money which was poured during Uhuru's regime at Cap Cadet Stadium. So much money was poured at Cap Cadet Stadium, much more than what was put here. And when you look at Cap Cadet, it is nothing next to even a stadium. In fact, the primary school stadium that we do in the county is way better than what we saw there. And so I didn't want to leave this rider without congratulating the CS and the team, because it is not every day that we can have a ministry that delivers and be able to give value to Kenya's money. So what we have witnessed in this stadium is an accurate, correct value of the money that was put here. And so, Waziri, I just wanted to laud you for that and to tell Kenyans that, we must also step up and say this is good, because we have seen stadiums that have been left hanging. We have seen so many which are moribund. And an example is the couple that I was talking about within Kericho County here. But this stadium is a testimony that the resources under your ministry are prudently used, and we wish you well, and we'll keep praying for you, Waziri, and you have all our unqualified support on your journey. Thank you so much. Let me now hand over to Waziri to make his comments.
Thank you, Governor.
Thank you so much.
Governor, let me first of all thank you, together with your government of this beautiful tea county of Kericho. You know, you're one of those counties that really brand Kenya well.
Correct.
Everywhere we go, we carry either Kericho Gold,
I tell you,
or Ketepa, all the beautiful tea from this county. It's amazing to be here. We have worked very well with your team. Your CEC responsible for sports, your chief officer, that gentleman there. Simama, tunataka kukupigia makofi. This gentleman there, your chief officer that is responsible for sports, has been very hands-on. This gentleman, and I've seen him in very many places. I've been with him in Eldred during the devolution conference. I have found him here, making sure that he's part of this. And so I want to laud yourself and the county leadership for being hands-on. Let me also applaud the national government. The administration led by His Excellency William Ruto is very unique in very many ways. And one of the things that makes this administration very unique is coherence in the way we execute government business and service delivery to the people of Kenya. And our mantra is whole of government approach to service delivery, meaning that it is all hands on deck, one for all,
all for one across government. And that is why I'm very happy that the celebrations committee led by Madam Anne Ngetich here, together with the team from Interior, has worked very well with the team from the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports through our lead agency, Sports Kenya, has worked very closely with the State Department for Public Works, PS, together with your team. And this has been a very good manifestation of what the President has been able to put in place. A government that is coherent and where everybody is pulling in the same direction, where the right hand knows what the left hand is up to. So hongera to the whole team of the national government for a job well done. I want to thank our team from the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, very ably led by Principal Secretary responsible for the State Department of Sports, Engineer Peter Tum, and our Sports Kenya leadership, the Chair of the Board of Sports Kenya and the Director General of Sports Kenya, Bwana Pius Meto. You know, it is good to have experts doing things in the right spaces. And you know, having an engineer for a PS helps a lot. And PS, you've really been amazing in making sure that we keep on track and that we tick all the milestones for this project. And so really this is, and I'm saying this deliberately, to send a very clear message that this is a team effort. This facility is being delivered here today, and we are celebrating the conclusion of a project that is the result of a good team effort. We have a good leader in the President, and we have a good team supporting the vision of our President. And so today, we are delighted to gather here in this beautiful town of Kericho to receive the refurbished Kericho Green Stadium. We have actually turned a dilapidated, forgotten, ignored ground into a stadium that fits the name stadium. Now we have Kericho Green Stadium as a 10,000-seater capacity stadium. You can have 10,000 people comfortably sitting. We have a 2,000 capacity VIP zone where you can have a VIP sitting area to hold 2,000 people. We have 2 VIP lounges, 2 well-finished, good capacity lounges. We have 2 changing rooms, a changing room for the away team, a changing room for the visiting team, and tomorrow we will put those changing rooms to use for the Mashujaa Day Cup, because tomorrow we will witness the Mashujaa Day Cup here, and our teams will be able to use those modern.
Well, that is Sports Cabinet Secretary Babu Namwaba there briefing the nation on the preparedness of Kericho Stadium to host this year's Mashujaa Day. We are back in studio. Our conversation revolves around tapping the North American markets and what strategies we need to put in place. Kia Wakesho Simmons is the CEO and founder of Traverse Culture. She's with us in studio, as well as Kevin Onyona. He's the CEO and founder as well of Swahili Village, which is based in the US. Wakesho, before we went for the break, and I was asking you these, you as an African American, so you understand the two markets very well, the African markets and the American markets, because you represent the two markets.
Yeah.
What do we need to do to ensure that we deepen the interest of African Americans to come to Kenya? It's a significant market. You have about almost 50 million people in the US.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's a great question. All we want to do is be welcomed. Very, very simple. We don't want much. We just want Kenyans to welcome us. I believe that we should create a bilateral exchange between ourselves and Kenyans and welcome the opportunity to get to know who we are. what we represent globally, who we represent as Americans, as well as us immersing in your culture and getting to know who you are so that we can move towards conscious commerce and trade through travel.
Through travel.
Yes.
And when you say that you just want to be welcomed, I mean, what kind of welcoming would you be looking forward for? Or
that's a really good question. I say that all the time, welcome us. Because there's a huge gap in terms of even acknowledgement of each other, because Kenya's far. So a lot of people are used to going to West Africa. So I think welcome would look like us being able to do interviews like this in Kenya and saying, okay, we agree with you. Y'all come on home. Y'all come to Kenya and see what it's about, and we would love to get to know you and learn what you're about. Again, through social media, maybe the government welcome us to Kenya as well. Again, it's very simple, not complicated. It could just be a verbal, we welcome you to Kenya, African Americans, directly to us.
I'll be coming back to you, and I'll be wanting to find out, you've been talking about the call to action.
Yes.
You'll be telling us, what is this call to action?
Yes.
Kevin, it is said that the way to get to a man's head is through his eyes, and the way to get to a man's heart is through his stomach. Yes, last month you opened your third branch.
Yes.
And President Ruto was in attendance, and you are awarded a certificate of recognition. Help us understand, what is this certificate of recognition? How important is it, and how do you plan to use it to create that linkage between Kenya and the U.S.?
Yeah, so the recognition came about as a result of what Swahili Village has already been doing to the country, or for the country. So you walk on main streets of Washington, D.C., on M Street, and you look up and you see True Taste of Kenya, Swahili Village restaurant. That invokes a lot of things to anybody who, was just maybe a tourist just walking around town, and they're like, what? You have True Taste of Kenya, restaurant. And that came strictly from basically the love we have for the country, and how much we would like to be able to present ourselves and present our cuisine. So His Excellency, the President, recognized the work that has been put into this. This is 16 years into the building of Swahili Village, True Taste of Kenya, with millions of dollars having been spent. Yes, for commerce, but also for diplomacy. The DC restaurant, for instance, I could have opened it anywhere in the city. I could have put it on, southeast. I could have put it on northwest area of the city. We went to the main diplomatic corridor of the city of DC. We are only a few blocks away from the White House, the World Bank, the IMF. We'd sit right on the diplomatic space, so that we went within walking distance to a lot of the embassies.
You're within what we call the triangle of power.
Absolutely.
In Washington, D.C.
And that makes your rent, you can start imagining what that costs to be able to put that restaurant
And
there.
this is a Kenyan business, right in the triangle of power in the U.S.
Yes, and it's it's Kenyan owned, and it's also Kenyan built, because all of our construction work is done by Kenyan. The design work is done by Kenyan. The architectural work is done by Kenyan. So it's not just to showcase food, but to showcase what we are about and what we can do. Because, quite often people think that, African food is supposed to be served in the back streets, and it's a small little dingy hole that you go and you don't know where the food is coming from. No, this is actually a really fine space, and we take our time to speak very loudly about what we communicate. Now, having said that, the president recognized this could be a really good platform to really be able to market Magical Kenya. After all, we're already putting Magical Kenya out there. So I'll just give you, statistics, Brian. Any one of our restaurants has about, I would say now, 4,000 to 5,000 foot traffic a week.
That's a week. So you're looking about 20,000.
So every week, we are visited by 15,000 guests.
Every week?
Every week. Every month is 60,000.
Just one outlet?
No. All combined.
The combined?
Yeah. And every year that number is 720,000 captive audience that bring themselves and sit in our restaurant.
720.
And they come for 4 hours. An average guest will stay in a restaurant for 4 hours.
So this is almost 4 times the number of American visitors who came to Kenya last year.
Very true. Very true.
All right.
And of course, we're trying to build, by next year we'll have another 3 locations. So you just double the 720,000. You're already in your millions of captive audience. So people come and sit down. Nobody coerced them to come. They walk themselves in. They're sitting there for 4 hours. If you market Magical Kenya and you start talking to Ms. Simmons, do you have packages that we can sell to these people who are sitting here while waiting to eat their ugali, their nyama choma, or their whatever taste that the delicacy they want? What are you selling them? What else are you showing them? This is a captive audience. And this is where we want to talk to the government. And the reason why the president came to say, we want to urge you on, we want to recognize what you're doing, we want to be part of what you're doing, and we want to help you so that the government can now see the value of that expansion process. And by the time you get to 50, you have a captive audience of several hundreds of millions of people sitting in front of you, using that very same platform. Gastronomy, tourism is a very powerful way to be able to make conversions, convert from just dining to tourism, to traveling, to learning more, about
and credit must also be given to the former Cabinet Secretary for Tourism, Penina Malonza, who is now the CS for East African Community as well as Regional Development. I know she really worked so much behind the scenes to ensure that she deepens the collaboration between or the partnership between American visitors to Kenya, and I know that initiative is going. I will be coming back to you just to find out this new concept of the North American Tourism Initiative. What is it all about, and how does it work as well? But for now, I just want to bring Ms. Simmons on this issue and help us understand the call to action.
Yes.
What is it all about, and who are we targeting?
Yes, so the call to action is happening this December, the 28th through January the 8th. We look to bring at least 200 African Americans to Kenya. This year, we brought 50 plus African Americans last year who was interested in investing and relocating. So this call to action is, again, to call African Americans to Kenya. We want to change the narrative that we only have to visit West Africa. Kenya has so much to offer, and we certainly have so much to offer, and I want to share some statistics as well. The African American population is around 50 plus million in the United States. We also, if you collect our consumer power, we're the 9th richest country in the world, and we represent $1.9 trillion in consumer spending power. And so I make a concerted effort to make sure that I'm able to target that audience. It's easier for me to target that audience because I am African American, and I know what they want and what they need. So this call to action, again, is for us to initiate a relationship with Kenya through trade, commerce, and travel. And we're going to celebrate the new year right here in the motherland so that we can kind of commemorate with each other and celebrate. I love it. Yeah.
You're talking about 1.9 trillion.
Yes.
Worth of business.
Absolutely.
I mean, even targeting 10% of that would be about 190, billion US dollars.
Yes.
That is twice the size. That is almost twice the size of the Kenyan economy.
Absolutely. And I want to add the beauty to that is that while we may be able to get tourists to come here and see the beautiful animals, we love that. What is so special and unique about African Americans is that we literally are wanting to find a place that we can call home. So we'll transfer most of those people from travelers to relocating to investors. The people that we're bringing in December, probably 5% of them will invest this time. We had the great pleasure of relocating our first African-American family last year to Kenya, and we look forward to do that for many, many more.
You're talking about people relocating from the U.S. to Kenya.
To Kenya, African-Americans.
And you have a situation whereby Kenyans want to relocate from Kenya to the U.S.
And I tell Kenyans all the time, that's crazy. Listen, you have everything you need here in Kenya. And I think if you partner with people like my colleague here beside me and ourselves, you can make Kenya the place to be. It is the place to be. And I've been coming here for the last 12 years. And I'm going to permanently move here once I get my son in college next year. So yeah.
Are you planning to settle down here too?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Help me understand these. What is these that the African Americans are seeing in Kenya that Kenyans are not seeing in Kenya?
That's a good question. I think this happens on both sides, right? Because you could say that to me, like, why would you want to leave America? Like, America is great and everything. But when we get down to the nitty-gritty in terms of the African-American experience, we have a rough history in America. And so plenty of us, or a lot of us, are ready to just to create options. Even if it's not to move here permanently, have an option to be able to go somewhere where you feel safe, where you feel seen, where you don't look like the minority, you're the majority. That for us, I'm telling you, is immensely important and special to African Americans.
Where do you feel at home? Is it in the US or in Kenya?
Both.
You feel? Okay, both. Where do you feel more at home?
Where I feel more, that's a tough one.
When you're walking in the streets of Nairobi,
that's a tough one.
Or walking in the streets of North Carolina?
Okay, to be fair, I am from the States, so I do feel more at home when I'm at home, right? But it's something else when I come here. I feel safe. So it's a different type of solace that I find when I come to Kenya. But I mean, to be fair, I feel at home when I'm in Charlotte. But Kenya is definitely my number 2 home.
Your
for
number
sure.
2 home.
Oh yeah, I love Kenya. Yes.
Kevin, now that you have the certificate of recognition now, this initiative that the government of Kenya is working on, the North American Tourism Initiative, what is it all about, and what are we targeting?
By the way, Brian, this initiative is something I personally putting together. It is not a Kenya government agenda, but we want to make it an agenda because North American tourist is the most sought after tourist in the world. Everybody goes after North American tourists. And you can give context. Why? Because, first of all, they are all immigrants.
Yeah.
It's easy for them to travel. There are those who are stuck in their ways, but in the end, when they have it to travel, they will get up and travel. And they want to experience new things. They want to be able to understand new cultures. And Africa right now is sexy in America. And of all the countries, Kenya is the sexiest.
Wow.
And Ms. Simon's going to testify. You hear what she's talking about. Of all the countries in Africa, Kenya is sexiest. Now, I speak a lot to those who travel to Ghana, for instance, the year of the return. That was a government intense, investment for the African Americans. And they drove that agenda, and it was a serious campaign worth a lot of money. And so we're trying to urge our government, listen, you need to take now time to do even better, because Ghana reaped immensely from it. It was about
$1 billion US dollars.
$1 billion.
Yeah. How much?
6.1 billion.
Billion.
Yes.
That came out of that campaign.
The African American market.
Yeah.
Correct.
But when you talk to the African Americans who actually visited Ghana, they loved it, but there's a certain amount of sadness that they brought back home. And you ask them, would you go back? And say, I'd like to go back to Africa, not necessarily Ghana. And that conversation has been taking place a lot. Ms. Simmons will tell you that, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't want to go out to travel to be sad. You want to go out to travel to have some fun, to learn, to enjoy other cultures. And as she'll tell you, the people of Kenya deliver that without them knowing.
Very good.
It's just naturally what they are. They are hospitable. They are welcoming. We now need to transfer that to the leadership of the government to say, look, let us put a structure around, where these African Americans, be it visa-free, be it, open up citizenship. Because after all, the president says, this is the home of humanity.
Very good.
So there must be areas intentionally that the government, focuses on to make that initiative possible.
Very well. I mean, this conversation is very exhilarating, and we all agree that we can't exhaust these on within 1 hour, because I can see now it's almost coming to 12 o'clock. You actually have about a minute to 12 o'clock, but I want to give you 30 seconds.
Okay.
And send your message to the people watching you.
Oh, great. So, to my fellow Kenyans, because I consider myself a Kenyan as well, thank you for welcoming me in your country for the last 12 years, and I will continue to represent Kenya in America. And for African Americans, I welcome you to Kenya through travel, and Kenya also welcome you as well. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Very good. In 10 seconds.
Well, North American Tourism Initiative is our passion, and this is something that I think we need to develop further to enable us to have critical mass of Kenyans, of African Americans, or Americans, period, traveling to come and enjoy this beautiful country. And Swahili Village is doing its part, and we know that this is intentionally something that we can achieve.
Very good. Mr. Kelvin, Ms. Simmons, thank you so very much indeed for gracing our show this morning, and now it's afternoon, and of course sharing with us those interesting insights. We'll continue to have this kind of conversation so that we can ensure that we create a win-win situation for the American market and for the Kenyan market. Your time is highly appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Simmons is the CEO and founder of Traverse Culture, and Mr. Kevin Onyona is the founder and CEO of Swahili Village, based in the US, talking about how to deepen tourism relations between Kenya and the United States, the strategies that we need to employ, and of course the processes that we need to go through. And of course you have heard it from him, there are tremendous opportunities that lie between the two markets. And so the question is, what do we need to do to exploit that avenue? We'll continue to have this kind of conversation. My name is O'Brien Kimani. You have been with us for the last two hours now, and we're coming to the end because Kurunzi Mashinani is coming up next. And from me and the rest of the tech team, have yourself a good afternoon.
You're strangely nice. Is this about the open position? No wonder you're the boss around. You can read people's minds.
If I want to go to nice places with fresh air and a great view and be on my phone, why can't I then? It will make me happy to get away from here for a while. I just want to have fun. Why don't you understand?
Known each other for years. Can we catch up for old time's sake?
Didn't you just get paid? How on earth is it possible that you have no money left?
Now that we're broken up, don't ever call me again.
In Kenya, 9 in 50 children are stunted. That is to mean they are too short for their age.
It is only 60% of the babies that were enumerated and exclusive breastfeeding.
Yeah.
And you know the mother's milk is almost self-contained in terms of nutrients.
This week, we discuss childhood nutrition.
People living with HIV, they have children, they cannot breastfeed. Those children should be put on alternatives. We must come up with evidence-based policies. Policies that are based not on theory, but on research.
Make sure you tune in.
Kwa hivyo Bazenga unasema wewe ni mtu ya mbogi ya Ulolo.
Sasa wewe unaongelesha